we have Spencer here from Ruuster, and he's going to be sharing some amazing tips with us today. Spencer, do you want to introduce yourself and just give us a little bit about what Ruuster is? And I think it's a great tool that a lot of our clients will look forward to learning about.
Yeah, Jennifer, thanks for having me. I'm Spencer Linquist. I am one of the founding team members at Ruuster. And if you haven't heard of us, we create branded mobile apps for agents, teams, and brokerages to use, essentially giving you the same types of tools that your clients are currently going to, the big portals for, or going to Bankrate for, Home Advisor, Angie's List, giving you that caliber of tool, but branded around you and kind of giving you a chance to be the champion, retain all of that attention.
Amazing. What's your ideal client that's using your apps right now, Spencer?
Currently, most of our client base tends to be high producing teams or team bridges. We've got some independent brokerages as well. Folks who are maybe doing 150, 200, 300 transactions and trying to get like really big fish that are doing 1,500 transactions, folks who tend to have some systems in place. They've already usually got some lead gen funnels in place, and they're looking for some additional tools to really help strengthen their game and get them to that next level where they want to go in transaction volume.
And probably just really people that are focused on like the client experience, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I see that kind of really falling in, is like clients that really rave about it. So that's awesome. So Ruuster app, I think a lot of our clients are going to want to look at that for sure. So let's dive on in. We've got kind of a market shift right now, and I think kind of like the biggest question that I think all agents right now are asking is, what do we do? Like, do we put money somewhere? What are we focusing on training wise? So I know you have some amazing tips to share with us today. So let's dive into that.
Yeah, so I think where we are versus where we were. We have moved from a place where there were a lot of agents doing plenty of transactions that didn't necessarily have to worry about their skills or their processes. And things are going to be, or are already, a little bit tougher than they were, say, in October of 2021. So, as the market has shifted and you're looking at less inventory, less motivation due to interest rates for folks to make a move unless they're at a life event, we're seeing, fewer transactions, which is really making it more reliant on skills and processes than it was before, right? There's fewer food to go around at dinner time, if you catch my drift. So what we're seeing now is the folks that are winning are really laser focused on processes and getting back to just, traditional sales, what works, what doesn't, focusing on things that matter. And folks who are struggling, potentially leaving the business, are the folks that haven't gotten their processes squared away, that are scatterbrained, that every day when they sit down, they don't know where their attention needs to go. They don't know what their clients are doing. And if that is you right now, that's a really tough place to win. So hopefully after this webinar, you'll have some takeaways and things you can implement, whether you work with me or not.
Amazing. Yeah, we're definitely seeing that a lot right now. We've seen a lot of agents, luckily none of our clients at the moment, but we've seen a lot of agents kind of leave the market because they're kind of struggling, and then also approaching us too, trying to say, hey, we need to do something differently. We need to be more efficient. We need to build out our system. So that's interesting that you're seeing that too. So let's talk a little bit about automation. So you want to talk about automation versus like connection. That one's really important to me. So share a little bit about what you're seeing.
Well, it's funny we're having this webinar today, since this kind of came together months and months ago, but today they're launching Chat GPT-4, right? So I'm sure when I jump into pick your favorite real estate Facebook page or coaching group page, all the buzz is going to be, what can I use AI for? Or influencers are going to be selling their 10 things to use GPT-4 on. So kind of funny timing that we're answering this question today. And the thing about automation, whether it's like a real AI tool like Chat GPT, or we're just talking about automation that's been around forever, like yes, no triggers for follow-ups and automated sequencing. That is all great at giving you additional bandwidth and helping you scale contact volume. But what it can't replace is authentic connection with people. So you may be able to scale through a chat as leads are coming into your website, for example. You may be able to have a chat bot that asks like the LP Mama questions and helps you figure out who is more now oriented, who is 3 years out from now when their kids graduate from high school and they want to downsize. That is great, but that only takes you so far, right? So what you really need to be doing from there is when you're leveraging automation, use it so that you can more accurately and efficiently spend your time, because that's what you can't scale. So that automation is going to buy you time so that you can jump in and make those authentic connections, figure out, what is going on with people in their day-to-day that has them reaching out to you or signing up on a website or you name it, following you on Instagram, right? Whatever that may be. And those authentic relationships will do two things. So the first is it's going to give you a chance to establish yourself as an authority figure, which AI really can't for you. This is your chance to step in and explain what you know, why you're qualified, this, that, and the other, but it's also your chance to be empathetic and create a real relationship so that they can trust you moving forward. So that not just does Spencer know everything that's happening in the Columbus, Ohio market, but he knows that my son is a junior and he's the quarterback at school and, all of these personal connections. And he actually took an interest in me. People value that. People will transact with you if they have a real connection with you. And again, these are things that an AI bot or a 24 text sequence through your CRM, those can't replace that human element and that authentic connection that you should be attempting to make, and that I'm seeing the highest volume teams consistently make and implement in their day-to-day routines when they're working their database.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so funny that you bring up that topic, because I feel like more often than not, especially because the market's changed a little bit, everyone's like, what are you seeing with all these other teams? Like, what are they doing? What are they doing? And I'm like, my teams that are still selling a ton of real estate, yeah, they're doing marketing and they're paying for some leads and stuff like that. But most of their business is coming from connections. It's coming from Sphere. It's coming from people they know, they like, they trust. It's not coming from all the techie stuff. And it's because just like that, people need to sell right now. And who are they going to use? They're going to use someone that they know, like, and trust, because a lot of people are in really stressful situations right now. A lot of times they're moving because they almost have to, or, there's a real necessity there. So with that comes like a lot of stress. So I think that's super important right now. So let's kind of dig into, like, how do you feel like Ruuster ties in to a lot of that? Because Ruuster is tech, right? So like, how do you feel like Ruuster ties into that connection?
It's really funny, Jennifer, because I think folks hear me talk about apps and they think, oh, this is just some shiny object.
Yeah.
Or they're just trying to sell me a newest, greatest thing that you're in real estate. You've been burned by the newest, greatest thing plenty of times by now, probably. But our message is really like core sales follow-up, getting back to putting in the work. And where we come into that picture is this: if you've been doing business for any amount of time, you're having conversations with folks from all over the place. Some of them maybe online, some of them you meet at a coffee shop, some of them are referrals, and you're having an initial conversation. You're probably setting them up in your MLS or on your IDX website if they're not already in there. And those conversations continue happening, and it's easy to forget about the person you spoke with yesterday. What we've seen over the 9 years or so we've been in this space, the team members at Ruuster, is that just setting folks up on a portal is getting tougher to win. Open rates across the board are going down. And if you dig in beneath that, a lot of those opens for that automated property engagement, a lot of them are just Apple privacy opens. So it's not even a real person opening up that content. So what we're trying to do is match the team, the agent, the broker. We're trying to match the tools they use with what consumers are used to. And the website-based experience that folks liked in 2014, they're not necessarily happy with or going to use primarily in 2023. And you can look at Zillow data, .com data. These big portals are seeing more of their usage coming from apps over time. So what we're doing from a shiny tool feature, standpoint is we are giving the realtor a tool that is going to accommodate what a 2023 consumer expects, so that when you meet them, you can keep the conversation going by getting them into an app that they will continue using, that bypasses spam folders, that sends them push notifications, that's got a group me type chat features. They're not having to take a screenshot and text it to you. They can access all of the helpful education content and videos and everything that you're putting on social channels, hoping that the algorithms highlight for you. You can also have it in your app for folks to easily access. And also vendor handoffs are a piece of the app as well. So instead of going to Angie's List to find a HVAC provider, or if it's an active client, instead of going to Bankrate and getting 40 different mortgage professionals calling, they can find who like, and trust from within there. And what this ultimately does is it gives you more information. It gives you more insight. And so when we were talking about automation versus authentic touches, when you can see more of what your consumer and your client is thinking about, you can have smarter outreach. And I'll give you an example of this. Let's say, all right, so talking to my Phoenix folks, if anyone is in Phoenix tuning in, it's August, it's monsoon season, and you get one of those SOS texts with your phone blowing up that there's a haboob blowing through. For everyone across the country that doesn't know what that is, it's a big dust storm.
Yeah, I'm like, I have no idea what that even means.
So big wall of dust blows through, happens in different parts of the valley. You get a text that, in Chandler, there's 80-mile-an-hour winds. So there's a good, better, best way to handle this. Hopefully in your CRM, you've got folks tagged at least by the location that they live in or where you sold a property. So you could, one at a time, reach out to everybody, say, hey, everything okay? Anything I can help with? That is great. It's just really hard to scale if you've got 600 people that live in Chandler, right? That's a big ask of your time. You could mass text everyone, hey, hope everything's okay, and see what responses you get. With something like Ruuster, what you'd be able to do is in your app, you would see the 6 people that the next morning opened your app and we're looking at roof repair services or window services because a tree blew into their house and they've got to make some repairs. And based off that information, you could actually go to a pop by, which is going to be the most powerful way to keep in touch and have outreach, is actually check on these people in person. So just gives you more data, more information, so that you can make the highest ROI decision with what action to take in terms of use of your time.
It's giving you all the data. Okay, that's amazing. So you're not having to deal with like the masses. You just have the data to who to reach out to first, basically, which is, and then you can make the connection there. So that's awesome. You also mentioned something interesting where this market, we are in the middle of the funnel versus the top of the funnel. So tell me a little bit with your thoughts there, like what's making you see that in the market?
So a few things there, I guess, to speak to. Part of our mission behind this was really just a hunch, because a few of us had worked at lead gen companies and CRM companies, and we always noticed that agents had a tendency to really just focus on new leads. Team leaders struggled to get their agents to focus on anything but new leads, and everything else was just secondary. And that scales really poorly with real estate leads, because on average, they take 18 to 24 months to turn around. Yeah. So that was something that kind of got our heads spinning of, hey, what can we do to help with all of those opportunities that folks aren't thinking about? And that's what led us to really think about, okay, let's build apps. No one's doing that. It's not a tool available for folks. And since launching Ruuster, we've been extremely fortunate to kind of be in the right rooms with folks who know more than we do. We've had a chance to see some macro level data with transaction management and reporting companies' numbers. So across some of the highest producing teams and team bridges in the country, we've gotten some raw data on what their numbers look like. And the most recent number we saw was that of all of the folks that an agent meets with, they're only going to actually close 40% of the folks that they're meeting with, whether that's a buyer consultation, they meet them at a home, they have a listing presentation. So that's 60% of folks that they're meeting with. This is not just a new lead. This is folks that they assume they're going to close. 60% of those folks don't end up doing business.
That's such an interesting data point. I've never heard that before. Like they think they're going to close that transaction, only 40% do?
Yes.
Wow.
There's some variability there, but the macro number was only 40%. And so sure, 10 or 20% of the folks you meet with might just not transact, but that's still another 40% of folks that do business. They just don't do it with you. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying, hey, let's just throw more Google pay-per-click, or let's spend 5 or 6 figures on video marketing, all of those things are great. But that doesn't solve for the fact that as you get more new leads in and you got your automation team things up and then you meet with them, you're still going to bleed out 60% of those opportunities. So let's focus on all of that meat that's still on the bone, in addition to focusing on continuing to get leads into the funnel. So that's really our core mission, is one, raising awareness that there is meat on the bone. Raising awareness that, hey, you probably don't close 100% of the folks that you initially meet with, which not all agents will agree with, and we peel back the data with them. But that's what we're trying to raise awareness for, is that there is a lot of opportunity sitting in your CRM and sitting in your Rolodex of contacts that you already know. So when leads are going to get more expensive to generate, when there's going to be more competition around folks on Redfin, or pick your favorite lead source, let's hunker down and focus on the GCI that's sitting there waiting for you to claim it, that you've already paid for their contact information upon.
That is so interesting that you bring that up, because we've had a couple of teams recently where we're having like a major issue where these leads are already in their database at some point, and they're literally calling Zillow again and getting connected with the same team. And I'm looking in the CRM being like, we've already paid for this lead once. They were in there. They're in the database. So I think that is really important to kind of think about. I mean, and those are kind of new leads. They're not people that they had actually actively met with, but it's so interesting because it's like, everyone's like, well, how do I get more leads? How do I get more leads? Well, have you looked at the database you already have first and made sure that you're working those? and then go out. I think that's so interesting. 40%, such a big, or small number, I guess, of people that you've already actively met with, and they're going and transacting elsewhere. So,
and from the conversations that we're having, within the last 60 days, it's really taking a reframing. If you're a team lead or you're a broker, to kind of recalibrate expectations of what agents are doing, what your admin staff's doing, what your ISA staff is doing, because what worked 12, 18 months ago isn't going to work now. And if I'm seeing some of the highest producing team leads in the country, some of them are letting go some of their higher performing agents because they refuse to adapt to the actions that are needed today. And they're kind of bringing everyone else's mindset down. When everybody's sitting down to make calls, they're not excited to be calling through those old leads. They're complaining about not having the new lead flow that they used to. And, that's a really tough decision to make, to walk away from someone that's bringing in 30, 50, 75 sides a year. But that's the decision I'm seeing really, really successful team leads making right now for the betterment of their organizational culture and the direction that they want to continue heading in 2023.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, things have changed. It's not the last couple of years where you just go have a buyer call in and they go out looking for properties right away. It's a little bit tougher in just all aspects of the market. So amazing, amazing. I want to kind of open it up for question and answers and just see if there's anybody that's listening that has a question for you, or it could be about Ruuster or just kind of the topics that you've spoke on. Does anyone have any questions?
I wanted to ask, do you have any foolproof ways to maybe up the percentage from 40% to closing deals or getting the lead?
That's a great question, and I'm going to have this be a little more conversational than you might have been expecting. Stephanie, I think the answer to that is really dependent upon what you're currently doing, because there's not a one bullet solution for marketing, engagement, staying in touch with folks. There's a bunch of different knobs that you're constantly working on fine tuning, right? So can you give me an example of some of what you're currently doing, and maybe we can identify some other options that could help drive that number up?
Right now for listing appointments, it seems like I'm getting a lot of interested people that want to sell their home either now or in the future, but just getting them to the appointment has been the biggest struggle for me. Especially this recently, it's I just try setting these appointments with them and they just keep repeatedly canceling, and it's so they're not just going with anybody else, it's just they're just not having the conversation.
Mm-hmm. And Stephanie, to some degree, you're going to keep running into that no matter what happens until rates come back down. But I'm curious, when you're having the conversations to originally book the appointment, are you taking things deep enough in the conversation to understand really what's prompting their interest in selling, or are you just finding kind of, hey, what do you want to list for? Let me come by and I can tell you if we can sell for that or not. How deep are you taking it? How much rapport are you building?
The one I'm talking about specifically, I do know their reason for moving. It's just I know that we have a longer timeline, so we're kind of in the middle of it. It's been about 3 weeks now since we talked about it, since we discussed everything, and I sent her CMA, I got her net sheet, everything, but just getting them on the meeting just getting them to the meeting has been treacherous, I guess. I've even offered Zoom meetings. And this has happened quite frequently with other people. It's just, and then, I don't want to keep pestering them. So then I kind of give them a little space. And then by the time I circle back around, either they've started selling with somebody else or something else has kind of happened. They're not selling anymore. I just wanted to know if there's any ways to jump over this hurdle, I guess. Maybe I'm not pestering them enough.
So there a couple thoughts there, Stephanie. Obviously, make sure you're doing all of the basics right. So you've got them on the appropriate CRM touch points, and they're getting your market updates. They're getting that type of information from you. One thing that you could definitely do that I've seen someone that I know down in the Panhandle, down in Florida, do is they were able to find out what was prompting the person to move and get a really clear picture of what they wanted to do next. And what ultimately led them to get the listing appointment where they sat down and won that listing was finding solutions for what that perfect next opportunity looked like. So they were able to kind of present a menu of, hey, I've got, opportunity 1, 2, 3 lined up. I actually reached out. You could try and find off-market opportunities proactively that align with what they need. But sometimes that carrot of, okay, Stephanie has helped me find where I'm going to go next, opens them up to having the listing conversation, because a lot of sellers right now are scared to have the listing conversation and end up stranded without a next opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're saying just being proactive and helping them with the end solution to kind of push them towards the solution that I'm finding of listing their home.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I haven't thought of that. They're moving to, I want to say like Massachusetts, the New England area. I don't even know what state, but I guess that can prompt a conversation to find out where they're moving to. I did offer to see if they had an agent in the area that they were looking. They did, but I mean, maybe finding like a good school district for their kids or something like that could prompt another conversation. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it certainly could. Any value you can provide, Stephanie, that's going to help them get closer to what they need in New England, whatever's got them going up there, that is going to make them more comfortable taking action sooner. And hopefully that action will be with you.
Okay, that's really good advice. Even like helping them, assist them with moving, like finding moving companies or discounts or something. That definitely helps. Thank you.
Of course.
That's great. Dawn, I felt like you wanted to chime in. No.
Oh, now you took me off mute. That was good. Stephanie, your first problem is you're not pestering them. Get that out of your head. You were helping them. There you go.
I feel like I've messaged them like 30 times in the last 2 weeks. Like, do you want to meet today? Do you want to do a Zoom meeting? Would that be better? Would that be better for you?
Stephanie, you send me the details on the house. I'll find you a buyer that wants to see that house tomorrow.
Awesome. Perfect.
Come with a buyer. That's a game changer. Hey, I have a buyer. I think I have a buyer for your house.
Perfect.
There we go. That's
good. Yeah. That's another in. Thank you.
That's so funny. Anyone else with any questions?
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear, and I don't know, Spencer, maybe you want to share, you could share kind of how you guys are doing this specifically with Ruuster, but my question is kind of similar along the lines of Stephanie, like improving that 40% stat. But I guess what I'm curious about is what are the features that Ruuster's offering that you guys are seeing are working to improve that statistic? What are the specific features that Ruuster has that's allowing agents to stay, really plugged into their SOI, or, those other 60% of people to really improve that?
I don't want to oversimplify it, but I might just do that. The reality is none of the other agents that are competing for a potential client's attention, like Stephanie, nobody else that is trying to win the listing, that particular lead, none of them are reaching folks directly on their phone via push notification. It's just not happening. We are at the extreme start of the early adopter bell curve for mobile apps. So like there's this really big opportunity in terms of attention market share for folks that are rolling out apps and delivering the content that they already should be delivering. You already should be sending properties. You already should be letting folks know what's selling in their area. You should be updating them about the market. Hopefully you've got a network of vendors. You should have, some folks are providing like a sheet of paper when you buy, and 3 years later, the client never finds it again. But we're not like reinventing the communication that needs to go out. We're just giving the best vehicle to deliver the communication that you're trying to hit home with the client for. And right now that's a push notification. So there's a bunch of different messages that you could use, but the vehicle is really what we're focused on. So that way folks see your message instead of opening up someone else's app or signing up on someone else's iLopo website, or going somewhere else because you lost their attention. That's really what we're trying to help with, is just creating an invisible fence or an imaginary moat around the castle that is your database in your CRM.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of curious, just because I'm thinking like, is it as simple as, like potential clients just need to be texted more, like kind of like what Don and Stephanie were saying, maybe pestering them a little more. But I was curious if you guys specifically in your data were finding, like, hey, we found that this kind of communication or specifically this content is really what seems to be the turning point for a lot of agents that begin to use your system and then see these improved results.
We're seeing the highest engagement on instant property alerts, because for buyers, they want to know before everyone else. That hasn't really changed. Even the market's a little different. And then sellers are most interested in content related to the value of their home and what their neighbor's home is going for. So folks haven't inherently changed in terms of what they care about. So delivering messaging in line with what they care about will get much better results than, not to throw folks under the bus who did this, but like the turn back the clock email and probably didn't get that much engagement.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for your insight.
So I feel like I didn't get as many this year for the time change that I normally do. I feel like I usually get a bunch from like lenders and whatever, but I don't feel like I got as many this year for some reason.
I think folks have either learned or they've sent so many Thanksgiving recipes that they're just on the spam list now.
Maybe there might be that too. And I mean, just to kind of add on to that, like, I just feel like it comes down to staying top of mind and adding a whole lot of value. And if you're not doing both of those, you're probably not closing all the clients. I mean, it's kind of as simple as that. It's like, what are you providing them?
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't have to be what we do. It doesn't have to be every single message. Hey, or do you want to listen now? Can we meet tomorrow? It doesn't have to be explicitly salesy, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, like when you're first meeting people, you get a referral, and you're finding out all of this rapport building information. Hopefully you're putting tags in the CRM that they are a part of this organization or club. And hopefully you're taking the time to follow them on Instagram and Facebook friend them. And then, I mean, literally it could just be spending 30 minutes in your evening instead of watching TV, going through your social media feed and putting in thoughtful comments or DMing people. Hey, that's great. Congrats, yada, yada, yada. And folks will see that. And generally they'll appreciate it. And that's just as much a way to stay top of mind than spending $1,000 a month on video retargeting. Yeah,
That's awesome. Just caring a little bit, right? Like kind of just showing that you care what's going on and all that good stuff. So that's amazing. Is there anyone else with questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Or it's kind of a couple of questions in one. And it's more around the actual working of the app. all of those analytics that you get for what they're looking at, is that in the app itself, or do you have a web-based kind of back end for all of this where you can see that? And does that tie to their CRM, or do you have something of your own that houses all of that information?
Yeah, there is an agent view or an admin view for the app itself. However, what most of our clients have done is they're feeding all of the activity off of the app into their CRM so that, one, they can have the reporting that they need, but two, they can leverage those, that activity to trigger automations, which then they can follow through behind with, meaningful outreach. So hope that answered your question, Mackenzie.
So it connects to their CRM, and then you can communicate from the CRM to the app as well.
The chat function is going to be via the app for all CRMs except for Follow Up Boss. We will soon have an embedded app in there where you'll be able to manage the property alerts and send chat communications. It's going to be on the sidebar for a client profile.
Okay, awesome.
Amazing. That's super exciting. Most of our clients use Follow Up Boss. We do have a couple agents on here that use the Fathom CRM. So do you have any just kind of sidebar? Because I know a lot of our clients are pretty techy. Are you planning on adding that kind of feature to most CRMs, or is Follow Up Boss kind of like the first one and you'll see how that goes?
It's
Putting you on the spot here.
it takes two to tango, as I guess what I'll say. So Follow Up Boss actually approached us of, hey, it'd be really awesome if y'all would work with us on building that. And coincidentally, two of my colleagues are on with their product team right now on a Zoom meeting, and we're ironing that out. Certainly if a cohort of our clients said, hey, I need, pick your favorite CRM, so I'm not playing favorites. But if there was demand for that, and then that particular CRM provider was willing to work with us to help accomplish that, we would love to be as deeply integrated in as many systems as possible.
Amazing. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, well, Spencer, this has been really great. I feel like we've kind of shared a whole bunch of different information today. Obviously, if you are a stats client, your account manager can put you in contact with Spencer. But Spencer, tell us the best way to get in contact with you if they're listening to this after the fact.
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is go to ruuster.com, and that is spelled RUUSTER.com. And if you fill out an inquiry there, it will go directly to me or potentially my colleague, Randy Carroll. So one of us will be thrilled to speak with you. You can find me on Instagram, spencer.linquist. Feel free to shoot me a DM there. We're on all of the social channels, but going to the website or finding me on Instagram is going to be your best bet.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing today, and hopefully we get to work with you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.